Howdy, name's Rainfall. I've made a number of videos about working in construction at this point, about the culture of it and the headspace of a construction worker, the benefits of working in construction. And I've gotten thousands of comments across those videos, and I appreciate all of the comments that I've received. I've gotten so much positive feedback on it, and I really do appreciate it. I've said it before, I read every comment on all my videos. And I've also gotten a number of requests for advice on working in construction, people who are trying to get into the skilled trades and would like some tips on getting into it smoothly and not feeling like they're going into something blind. And I've been working in the skilled trades for 7 years. I'm an electrician, and 7 years relative to other people in the industry, people have been working in it for 35 to 40 years. I mean, that's not really very long, but I still feel like I've been in it long enough to be able to give you at least some advice to introduce you to working in construction and the different things that you can expect. And some of the points that I'll bring up are very obvious. Anybody would probably roll their eyes at hearing them, but I'm going to say them anyway because some of it needs to be said. And then some things that you wouldn't know unless you'd actually worked in it and experienced it and made the same mistakes that I have that taught me these lessons. So I'm going to try my best to ease you into it and to bring up 9 pieces of advice that I have been thinking about for days that I would give to somebody like my sisters or my cousin or anybody that I knew personally who was trying to get into construction that I would want them to know going into it. The first and most important thing that I can think of to say is if you die on the job, you're not going to respawn. Okay? Safety is something that will get preached at you by literally everyone, and it will become so ubiquitous and so overstated that you're going to roll your eyes at it, and it's going to be something that goes in one ear and out the other. And I cannot stress enough that you want to live to spend the money you're making. So please do not count on other people to behave in a way that is safe for you to work around. Do not count on other people to protect you. Perfect example that I can give is if I'm working as an electrician on a project that has power turned onto the project, and there's a possibility that if I plug something into a receptacle, it's going to work because the electricity is onto the receptacle, but I want to work on that circuit, I'm going to go to the panel and I will turn the breaker off and I will put a lockout tagout device and follow our company's lockout tagout policy to ensure that that breaker is not going to come on while I'm working on the circuit because I don't want to get zapped. And I'm going to do that myself. I'm not going to send somebody else to go do it. Or I'm not going to let somebody come to me and tell me, yeah, the circuit's off, you can work on it. Because what if they're wrong? What if they don't know what circuit I'm on? What if they think they do, but they don't? What if they went and put a breaker lock on it, but it fell off because they didn't tighten the screw on it properly? What if there is something that is not 100% safe and that is going to get me hurt? I do not want to take a chance with my safety. If I'm going up in a platform lift of any kind, I'm going to wear fall protection harness. I'm going to wear a lanyard or a yo-yo, whatever's applicable in that situation. I'm going to take the necessary measures to make sure that I can live to spend the money I'm making. Because, I mean, I went through the most dangerous thing that the average person does on a daily basis. I drove to the job site. Once I'm there, I want to make sure that I'm safe there too. I'm wearing all of the required PPE. I'm wearing all of the fall protection harness. I'm wearing my safety glasses, cut resistant gloves if they're applicable to the situation, hard hat, which is basically required on every job I've been on. I've got boots with steel toes in them to keep me from smashing my foot flat. Um, Safety is not a joke, and you need to be aware of the different hazards that are going to be facing you on a job site. You need to be aware of where your company's MSDS is located. You need to know where a fire extinguisher is going to be. If you've got something that you're dealing with that's flammable, you got to have a fire extinguisher. All of these different safety things are important to know. And every safety rule that OSHA has printed in their little rule book is written in blood. Somebody died to make the safety regulations that we have. Please do not spit on their contribution to our industry by saying, oh, well, I ain't going to get hurt. Boy, I tell you, I ain't going to wear all that crap in glasses, man. I can't, I mean, they fog up real bad. I can't see with the glasses on. And, well, I mean, them blasted, the hard hats, it's loud, it's heavy, it's hot, and I get all sweaty with my bald head up in that hard hat. I ain't wearing a hard hat now. You can't make me wear it. Don't be that, because You're opening yourself up to risks. Don't let that mindset, which will be perpetrated by your coworkers, I guarantee you there will be people on your job site who view safety with a flippant attitude. Don't let that rub off on you, because the environment that you're working in is full of a bunch of other people with a bunch of opinions, and oftentimes they're wrong. So please be safe. Safety is not a obstruction to productivity. It's not a waste of time. It's not something that only carpet walkers do. It's not something that only people from the office wear their ANSI Class 2 reflective vests on whenever they come out here because they want to be seen. And, I don't need to wear glasses whenever I'm cutting with this saw because, it's got a guard on it for a reason. Do not let other people make excuses for you to not be safe. Don't let somebody accuse you of bogging things down because you're trying to protect yourself. That's another thing. I'm saying this because other people will be an obstruction to you being safe. Don't let them do that to you. Second bit of advice that I would give is that the job is all in your head. The attitude that you go to a job site with is going to determine how your day goes. If you go into a job thinking today's going to be a garbage day, it is going to be a garbage day. If it's raining and you're going to be working in the rain, or it's hot and there's mosquitoes and stuff out, you cannot focus and fixate on that kind of stuff because it will destroy your day. It will ruin your attitude. It will ruin your morale. And a lot of the conflicts and things that people get onto on job sites, I know people think of construction workers as being a bunch of rough and, tumble barbarians or whatever. And oftentimes they are barbaric, but it's because of the morale of the job site. The morale of a job site is so flimsy and so easy to influence by one bad thing happening. Somebody is sick on the job and everybody's mad at them for coming in sick, or something didn't go right, or some installation was botched and now, a bunch of people have to come in on the weekend to fix it. It can shatter the morale of the job and make everybody miserable. And that can bleed over into other trades who aren't even involved and can make them aggravated. And then the general contractor's aggravated. And it can turn into a mess. The way people feel and the way people act are very heavily influenced by the smallest things. And oftentimes you can influence the morale of a job site just by the way you're acting. This is something that I learned very early on. The first job that I worked on, I was fairly reserved, fairly introverted, really didn't talk to anybody at all, and everybody stayed away from me. I guess I came off as creepy or a hermit or just somebody they didn't want to mess with. So anybody that ever talked to me really only said exactly what they had to. And 2 weeks in, people were still forgetting my name, and I really didn't know any of them either because I was just staying to myself. I was staying away from them because I'd heard plenty of things about working in construction, and at the time I didn't think this was going to be my career. I thought this was a temporary thing. So I really wasn't trying to get invested into it and get invested into the company and the people that were around me. So I didn't put forth any effort to interact with anyone in a positive way or positively impact the morale. And so over time, I learned to not behave in that way because it can make people really uneasy around you, depending on the way you act. Or you could be best buddies with people by the way you act. You don't necessarily have to be an extrovert, because I realize that's something that most people can't turn on and off. I guess I'm kind of weird like that because I can either put a shell around me or I can be just as open and zany as you want to look at. Boy, I tell you. Um, I guess I'm just a chameleon in that way. But yeah, the whole being sociable and being nice and being friends on the job site, I realize is not why you're there. You're not there to make friends. You're there to make money and to pay the bills. I realize that. But you would rather not be miserable at the job making money. You would rather have a good time if it's at all possible. You would rather work on a job site with people who are nice and people who are also having a good day and are friendly to you, because that will increase your productivity if you're not worried that the guy standing behind you is about to stab you in the back, literally. And it can just make a project go so much smoother, and it can make a 10-hour day feel like 20 minutes. And if you're miserable, it can make a 10-hour shift feel like 20 hours. So please pay attention to the way that you are interacting with people around you. Make sure that you are being a positive influence on the morale. Don't be a jerk. Don't be disruptive. Be nice to people. And that's true on that's true at any career path. You don't want to be a jerk to people. I can't think of a career off the top of my head besides maybe a stand-up comedian or a politician who benefits from being a jerk to people. But in this trade, you're selling yourself. You're selling your services and your capabilities and your knowledge and your ability to get a job done. The the entire construction industry is built on companies vending out their employees, their people, to provide a service, whether it's installing a product or remodeling something. Their biggest product is their employees, and an employee's knowledge and capabilities are good, but what they bring to the table in terms of mood and morale and the general vibe is also important. And if you've got two perfectly good employees who have exactly the same performance, and one of them is a jerk, and one of them is the class clown who doesn't disrupt anything, then which one of the employees is going to be favored? Whenever it comes time to lay somebody off and they've got to make cuts, which of those two employees is probably going to get deleted if they are both exactly the same capability? Just saying. Be nice to people. Third bit of advice I would give is that if you're planning on making a career out of working in construction in one of the skilled trades, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, whatever it might be, prepare for the next 40 years. All right? You're going to want to be with that company. Hopefully, you can stay with the same company and you don't have to move for 40 years until you hit retiring age. And you want to make sure that you are good to the company so that they are good to you as well. Everybody's got issues in real life, outside of the job. You got a kid to take care of, or you got your mom and daddy are getting old and you got to take care of them, or you might be sick. But be 100% sure that for the most part, and the vast majority of the year, you can make it to work on time. And, skating in fashionably late, as so many people do, where they're getting there 3 to 5 minutes late, that gets annoying. But, I mean, it's not going to kill you. It just doesn't make it look very good. Whenever I find out which site they're going to be sending me to, I will look on Google Maps or some sort of navigation app, and I will find out exactly how long it's going to take me to get to that job site that they're sending me to with the traffic that will be involved. I'll find out, say, it's going to be a 45-minute drive one way to get there. I'll get up 2 hours early so that I can make sure I have a good breakfast and I can get on the road and get there half an hour early. Because the way that you present yourself to your employer is very important. Being a good and dependable employee, you don't have to get there 30 minutes early. I'm not saying that. You don't have to be the early bird to get the worm. You just need to make sure that you are on time and that you are making a good impression with your employer. And one way to do that is to get there on time, sure, and to be a nice guy, yes. But in construction, we use a lot of tools. I have seen bandsaws and concrete drills and jackhammers and all kinds of equipment that we use on job sites. And I own a good bit of that. I own a bandsaw. I own a concrete drill. I own an impact driver and a conduit bender and a lot of other stuff that technically I don't have to have. Like, my company does not require me to own a conduit bender. They do not require me to own a $300 battery-powered bandsaw, but I have those anyway. And I'm not saying that you need to buy a bunch of expensive tools and equipment, especially not if you're brand new and this is the income upon which you will be building all of your tool repertoire. But I am saying to not go and be the employee that is always asking everyone around him for a tool. Man, you got a pair of pliers? Man, I could use a flathead screwdriver. That stuff annoys the piss out of everybody else that is on the job site, because you're asking me if you could borrow the tool that I paid for so that you can work with the tool that you did not buy, that you probably should, because I bought it. Why can't you? I have a lot of tools that I really don't have to have, in addition to not having to borrow things from other people, so that I can kind of flex on the employer saying, yeah, I'm committed to this and committed to doing well in this career and providing you with good service. I'm so committed that I'm out here sinking a large amount of money into making sure I'm successful and doing a good job. you don't have to spend as much as I have, because over the last 7 years, I've probably spent close to 8,000, roughly $9,000 on tools, and some of that is because some of it has been taken from me, and that's something else. If you do go and buy a whole bunch of tools, you need to make sure you protect it, because at first I was a little bit lax with it, and I didn't realize that a bunch of construction workers are thieves. So be aware of that before you go and spend an exorbitant amount. But I have bought a lot of tools, and it has made a good impression. It has established a reputation of being somebody that is committed to doing the job that I have. I am going to beat my own chest and say that I do have a good reputation with my company, because I do the blasted best I can, and they know that I'm doing the best I can, and they know that I want to do the best that I can through acts such as always being on time for work, very rarely ever just, taking a day off out of nowhere, and showing commitment by investing myself both in time and in finances to making sure I can do a good job. So there's just a couple things you can consider, and to continue to have your mind on being a good employee and establishing a good reputation that will carry you forward into the next 40 years is the advice that I could boil this last 5 minutes of me telling you this into one sentence. Just be a good worker and establish a good reputation. Now, one expense that you probably will want to stomach is buying a good pair of boots. Now, I've worked in commercial construction. I'm not here piddling with little houses and things. No, we don't go for such lowball game. No, we build warehouses and factories and schools and barracks and hospitals and things such as that. And they've got a big floor plan with a lot of concrete that I have to walk around on a lot, all day, every day. And whenever I first started, I was wearing boots that I had back whenever I was working as a stock boy in a grocery store. And so I'm wearing maybe $70, $80 boots that I got from Walmart, and they're not very good. And they got the safety toe in them, but they just weren't good quality boots, and they did not last even a couple months in construction. A pair of months. They didn't even last a couple months working in the environment that is on a job site, walking across that concrete so much, walking across rough terrain, stepping on screws and things such as that. You got to get you a good pair of boots, and sometimes that can get expensive. I have a pair of Donner boots, and they are, I think, $360 is how much I paid for them. I don't remember, but they've lasted me for well over a year at this point. And I mean, beside being a little bit smudged and scratched, they're phenomenal boots. They're still watertight after a full year or more. So you're going to be doing a lot of walking, and you're going to have, things dropped on your foot, or you might have to maneuver something using your toe. You might have to kick something. So make sure you got good safety toes in them, and invest in your feet, because you're going to need them for a long time. So get you a good pair of boots. Best thing you can buy for yourself right at the very beginning. Now, a cost you're going to want to mitigate is your fuel consumption, and that can sneak up on you if you're not careful, at least whenever you're first starting out. Construction is not like other jobs where you're going to the same building for 40 years. It's not like that. You're going to be all over the place. One week you're on this job site, the next week you're on a job site in the other county, and then if your company's big like mine, you might be in a different state before you know it. Pay attention to how much it is costing you to drive from job to job and to your house. And because whenever you first start out, you're an apprentice or you're a helper, you're in an entry level position with an entry level wage. And that is something that you might have to pay attention pretty closely to, how much it is costing you each week in gas. As you progress, most companies in most situations, your ladder of progression in terms of how much you're getting paid is pretty steady and pretty steep, where you can make a lot of money working in this trade, and so you're not going to have to worry about it for long if you stick with it and if you're getting regular raises. But in the very beginning, it can be a headache. So pay attention to how much you're paying in transportation costs. Now, another little sneaky detail that you're going to want to pay attention to is your health, because that will bamboozle you very quickly, and that's a lot worse than the gas prices. Take myself as an example. Whenever I first started working in construction as an electrician's helper at the age of 20, I weighed 178 pounds. And now I'm barely scratching 130. And I didn't decide one day that I just want to lose a bunch of weight. I wasn't paying attention to what I was eating. I was not maintaining a good and healthy diet. I quit paying attention to the things that I was consuming, and breakfast for me for years consisted of either a slice of pepperoni pizza or a tuna sandwich. And then lunch was either a slice of pepperoni pizza or a tuna sandwich. And then dinner, I usually didn't eat because I got home and I immediately went to bed. I was so tired by the end of these days where I'm away from my house for 14 hours a day. And by the time I got home, I was ready to fall asleep in the first bed I saw, whether or not it was my own. And my dental hygiene suffered as well. In addition to the fact that I shriveled up into a prune, I also was just going to sleep without brushing my teeth. Sure, I'd take a shower, but you let that hot water run on your back for long enough, and it'll put you to sleep in the shower. I have fallen asleep in the shower. I've fallen asleep on top of my washing machine, on my dinner table, in the floor, in my truck. It's exhausting. And the more weight you lose, the more exhausting it becomes. So I would just fall asleep before I brushed my teeth. And then I get up in the morning and, well, I got to go now. Now I'm on the way to work. Didn't brush my teeth. I had 17 cavities filled in the span of 4 weeks. And this hasn't been that long ago. I just stopped brushing my teeth completely. And it sounds stupid. Like, it's just something you learn to do as a kid. You go and you brush your teeth before you go to bed. But I'm not living with mommy and daddy anymore to be able to tell me that I need to go brush my teeth before I get into bed. No, I'm living by myself, and nothing's there to remind me besides the toothbrush cup sitting next to the sink. But getting out the shower and not keeping my eyes open, I'm not thinking about that. Your hygiene will slip. Your health will deteriorate if you are not paying attention, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you're not doing the best you can to do the job, but not overdo it to the point that you are killing yourself with fatigue. You got to be careful. And I'll tell you something else that you need to pay attention to the whole time you're working, not just whenever you start out, but your entire career, is you got to make sure that you do not let the job become all that you are. Whenever I got into it and got invested in it and really tried the best I could to establish a good reputation, a lot of things slipped. By getting 17 fillings and the fact that I dumped 50 pounds and other things also. Like the fact that whenever I would get done with a full work day on Friday and come home, I would go to bed, brush my teeth, eat dinner, I washed myself, but I went straight to bed. And then I'd get up Saturday morning and just wait for Monday because there's nothing to do. I didn't feel like doing anything. It was like if I wasn't on the job site, I really didn't have anything else to occupy my time. And it's not always been that way. Like there was all the hobbies that I used to have, the time that I used to spend with my family. I used to go play golf with my father like every month. And then I'd go bowling with my sisters pretty often. But once I really stopped paying attention and got to the point where I felt like I wasn't even a complete person if I wasn't at the job, all that stuff just fell off. And it sounds ridiculous to somebody who hasn't experienced that kind of I guess, addiction before. But yeah, I can tell you that being a workaholic is something that is a very real thing. And I feel like with a job as engrossing and all-consuming as construction can be, because it requires all of you, your mind and your body, it's easier to do that than a job where you're sitting at a keyboard and in a cubicle. With that, the most engaging thing that you're doing is typing on a keyboard. Not really using your body, not really investing yourself too much in it. I mean, I don't know anybody that's super excited about typing on a keyboard. It doesn't seem that exciting to me. Maybe it is possible to be a workaholic in a cubicle. I don't know, and I don't think it's possible. But with construction, where you got to use everything, you got to think about what you're doing. You got to remember past experiences and what you've learned. You got to work with your hands and use your tools, and it's engaging for me. I get very invested in it. And I've gotten too invested in it to the point that whenever I come home, I'm just waiting for Monday. This is an issue that I'm still struggling with. And this is advice that honestly I'm just kind of preaching to myself here because I don't really do anything outside of work because there's nothing to do. I've gotten to the point where I don't feel like anything is worth the effort anymore, and everything's just kind of boring and meaningless to do. Like, you know, why would I go bowling? Why would I play golf? I'd like to be able to do it with my sisters and my father, but my father's at work. My sisters, they've got jobs. You know, I could still go bowling and I could still golf by myself, but there's no reason to drag myself out of the house for that. And I could call my family and, you know, set up a day when we can go do things, but I don't feel like it. And that's not a good thing. And I know it's not a good thing, but why should I bother changing? That is a mindset that I want you to avoid, because once you get into it, it's really hard to get out of it. And like I said, I'm still struggling with that myself. I'm doing the best I can to try and do something outside of work and be more than just my job. Pay attention to your mental state just as much as your physical health. It'll sneak up on you too. You know, whenever I first sat down to make this video, I had a list of 10 distinct different pieces of advice that I would give to somebody trying to get into construction, and I feel like I have blended it all into one big conglomerate spiel. But I've done the best I can with what I have and with what I know. I've been thinking about this for days, trying to come up with what I would tell, like I say, my sister or my cousin or somebody trying to get into it, that I want them to succeed, and I want you to succeed. I want you to do well in this, because construction, working in the skilled trades, is a very good job to have. It's a steady job. It's a dependable job. It can be very lucrative, and you don't have to go to college and study for 8 to 12 years and get hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to be able to get into this. You can come into any trade company and start with absolutely no knowledge and get into their apprenticeship program, or have them train you in the way of their trade. And uh, there's such a labor vacuum right now where everybody's hiring. Like, you can go to my company's office right now and walk in and say, I don't know a blasted thing about any of what y'all do. And they'll say, you're hired. And they'll get you into our apprenticeship program and teach you what you need to know. And you can be very successful in our company with no prior experience or knowledge, because everybody's going to have something built. There's always going to be a need for construction workers and for MEP, for data guys, for welders, for iron workers, for concrete workers, for sheetrock hangers, for painters. All these different trades are always going to need someone. Carpenters, I forgot carpenters. Y'all don't exist anyways. You got to have people to build buildings for you. So it's a good time to get into it. There's always a good time to get into building stuff. Everybody's going to have something built. And I will say that I'm not the only guy that can give advice. Please, for goodness sake, whenever you start working, ask your coworkers who've been there for a lot longer than you have been in the industry for 20, 30 years, what have they learned? What advice can they give you? You know, what mistakes have they made that you can learn from so you don't make the same mistake? Learn from them. And if you have been in the trades for a long period of time and you've got somebody helping you who's new, try and give them advice, help them, teach them. We need each other to be able to do this job correctly, to be able to get the job done and build the building. So invest in your people that you're working with, invest in your company, and you can make a good piece of money, I'm telling you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have, the entire time I've been making this video, I cannot shake the feeling that somebody has been watching me. And so I'm going to go watch this video over again, because I can't quite put my finger on it, but I got to get to the bottom of this. So, y'all have a hilarious day.